Time now to discuss Mother Africa. Welcome to the show. This week we look at a model for transformation. We often talk about transformation, but how exactly do we do that? Well, we're taking a look at a forum that is called the Global Green Growth Forum, initiated by Denmark, and its model of transformation is our focus tonight. We also get your views on the issues, and we have Africa's top 10. You're watching the Africa Leadership Dialogues. I'm Julie Gichuru. This week on Africa Leadership Dialogues, we look at a model for growth and development that holds great promise, particularly when it comes to issues of sustainability and inclusivity, which are all important across the African continent. The Danish government, through the Global Green Growth Forum, otherwise known as 3GF, is seeking to ensure long-term inclusive green growth with complementarity, scalability, and replicability, as well as a convergence of people, profits, and the environment. Achieving such growth would be no mean task, particularly on the continent where we see such challenges with respect to sustainability, to inclusivity, to green growth as well. So how can this be done? We've spoken to a series of leaders and stakeholders in various sectors to tell us how exactly this can be done in Africa. With us this week,
Ambassador Geert Andersen, Danish Ambassador to the Republic of Kenya. Dr. Alice Kaudia, Environment Secretary, State Department of Environment, Water and Natural Resources for Kenya. Edward Mungai, Chief Executive Officer, Climate Innovation Center in Kenya. And Vimal Shah, Industrialist and Chief Executive Officer of the Bidco Group.
So what is 3GF and what lessons does it offer to Africa? Let's have a look. Ambassador, welcome to the Africa Leadership Dialogues. It's great to have you with us. Now, this 3GF concept it seems like a fairly new idea to the question of growth and development globally. What's happening in terms of Africa in this space?
A lot. Actually, and Kenya is just in the middle of all of this. And let me say that it actually started here in Kenya, because I think it must have been in 2008, the announcement by that Minister of Environment in Denmark, Connie Hedegaard, that the COP15 was going to take place in Copenhagen, was announced at the UNEP meeting here in Nairobi. That was then followed by the famous COP15 in Copenhagen, where we didn't achieve as much as we would like, but it was the starting point for utilizing all the resources that had been mobilized in Copenhagen to establish the Global Green Growth Forum. And the Global Green Growth Forum is a meeting that is going to take place in Copenhagen on the 20th and 21st of October, where Kenya will play a very, very significant and important role.
It's exciting for Kenya to be placed there, and we'll talk a little bit in more detail about projects and programs that we're hoping to see off the ground in Kenya. But for those who don't quite understand the 3GF model, explain it to us.
No, you see there in 2011, actually 2 years after we had swallowed what was actually a major meeting in Copenhagen, the largest meeting I think ever that had taken place, we decided to see how can we get private business, banks, industrialists, together with those who produce pharmaceuticals, chemistry, how can we get them together with academicians and with government? And how can we then use all the goodwill that is there to, together with politicians, to see if we can get the agenda a little bit further. And as we are speaking, there's a meeting taking place in New York, where they're actually trying to see if they can move this agenda even further. But in the 3GF, the academicians, the industrialists, the bankers, they come together and they each come up with suggestions, ideas as to how we can move forward. So, for example, we would have major companies like Philips showing how the bulbs, new bulbs, can be utilized. We have bankers showing how can we finance, microfinance, for example in Kenya. How can we get finance out to small innovations, innovative projects that are taking place? For example, as they come out in the Climate Innovation Center, which is based here in Nairobi, with support from Denmark and the World Bank. How can we utilize these good ideas? So we have a connection here between what is going on at the international world with high-profile industrialists, high-profile academics, our Prime Minister. We will have 2 cabinet secretaries from Kenya. We will have ministers from a number of different countries and industrialists come together. But very, very important is that Kenya is now there, because the first time Kenya went in 2011, it was to see. Then now it has been to learn, and now we are in the next stage, which is applying. So we have seen, learn, and implementation and applying, right? And this is what is the beauty of this. We have moved so far here in Kenya because the challenges are here. And I think the Green Growth Forum, where we get these different types of minds together, is very productive in addressing some of the issues that you have in climate, in resources here.
That's fantastic. When you look at the potential in Kenya, in Africa at large, what's your hope and your vision for transformation over the next few years? What do you want to see?
I think that climate change is something that is really affecting Africa. And I believe that getting these different partners together, where we have knowledge, we have finance, we have governance and government, yes,
present and engaged,
exactly, Julia. That I think is essential. And then I believe, because there's so much potential here, what is also required is the right education, so that we have the right people who can go into these type of different fields, right? We don't need university professors. We need people who have some vocational training in agriculture, in manufacturing, in crafts, and who can then go in and apply some of these technologies. And I think if we can get this mixed together, I think we have a great chance actually of addressing some of the issues that climate change presents to us here in Africa.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. I'm going to ask you to look into the camera now. And for many people watching in Kenya, but across Africa as well, what's your message to them? How can they be part of growing a productive continent?
The most important thing, I think, is save resources. I think proper saving and utilization of resources, and then use the skills that we all have. Everybody has talents, and use the talents that you have in utilizing the resources that you have available. It might be that you are good at working hard. It might be that you have some money. It might be that you are very talented in certain fields. But utilizing these resources for the benefit of your country, this is what we should all do.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Alice, for making time to be on the Africa Leadership Dialogues. We're going on a journey to understand 3GF and the impact that it can have. And now we'd like to get the government's perspective on this. Kenya, as we've mentioned before, is the first African country to be engaged in this initiative. How has it been so far? What's your experience?
Yeah, thank you very much, Julie. I think Kenya's engagement in 3GF arises from a national need, because Kenya is aspiring to be a middle-income industrializing country by 2020, but by 2030. However, to get there, we take recognition that a clean and healthy environment, endowed with the necessary environment resources like water, quality soil, energy, forests, and so on, is really a fundamental anchor for us to move in that direction. So Kenya became a member in 2012. And we are very glad that in that membership, We actually have even 2 Kenyans serving in the board of the Global Green Growth Forum. Right. And that is our Cabinet Secretary, Professor Judy Wahungu, and Mr. Vimal Shah, you know, our renowned industrialist in Kenya here. I mean, that name triggers a very positive business thought. It's known across the country. Across the world, not across the country. Absolutely. Yeah. So in terms of moving forward, what the government has done is that we have structured our thinking and strategy into 4 tracks. Mm-hmm. We have the one track which is on mobilizing finance for sustainable restoration of degraded land and seascapes. Mm-hmm. And why do we want that model? It's because for many years we have dependent on the intervention model. We get projects, we implement, and that's it. But now we are saying for sustainability, we need to go the private-public partnership model, anchoring it on social entrepreneurship or factoring in nature-based enterprises. And through this idea, we'll have youth and women groups engaging in restoration programs, but from a business angle, not from a project implementation angle. Now, going to the other tracks, they're very interrelated. The energy track, which we have just spoken of, I mean, Mr. Mungai has mentioned that. Here we'll be working in Laikipia County, and it's the wind energy. We want to ensure that off-grid communities have access to clean energy. Clean energy really is a basis of fundamentally a right that ensures that communities are healthy. Indoor air pollution is a major problem, and we want to address those in addition to environment. If not the biggest killer in the country today. Exactly, yes, yeah. Right. So beyond the energy, we are also looking at food and nutrition security. Mm-hmm. And here, the Minister of Industrialization is providing leadership, and we want to set up food processing parks whereby you will see the interlinkage then, that if you have a food processing park, the communities will benefit, but they'll need energy, they'll need water, and so on. All the ingredients and inputs into value addition process. Mm-hmm. The other track that we have is water, which is very related to the environment restoration component. Mm-hmm. And that is why when we focus on urban rivers, what we are saying is that the urban rivers niche is very strategic in that when we are saying urban rivers, we are saying urban river systems. So when we consider all the tributaries of these rivers, in other words, we are actually restoring the whole landscape. And here we want clean water for all. In fact, if you look at the intake of water in some of our water processing plants, the water itself is milky yellow. It's so loaded with the silt and soil that you can't really say it is water. So our vision really is, and our dream is that can our rivers flow with crystal clear blue waters again? A lot of people who are watching, and we've heard from various different people, starting with the ambassador, we've heard the work that CIC is doing. You're giving us, you know, the umbrella perspective of what we can see happening under the different tracks. People are thinking, can I tell you what they're saying at home? They're saying, it sounds good, it'll never happen. We never see transformation on the ground. They're being skeptical. What would you say to people who are skeptical about this right now? Transformation starts with the individual. It doesn't start with the government. And what we are saying is we are going to, you see, if we work with the youth, and this program we are saying is also going to touch on another program which we call the Green Schools, where our transformation agenda is to inculcate good environment stewardship among the youth, among the pupils. And here we are within the Green Schools program, which again has been supported very strongly by the government of Denmark, is that we want to promote the whole portfolio of renewable energy innovations, the whole portfolio of proper sustainable land management, forestry. We'll have tree nurseries in these schools, water harvesting, simple but transformative technologies. We are not talking about complexity here. We are not talking about blue sky innovations. We are saying these are technologies that are simple to understand, can be easily adopted by communities, can be easily understood by schools. And we are also saying that we are going to ensure that all this knowledge package is in the curriculum of our primary schools, secondary schools, and universities. That is music to our ears, I can tell you that. It will work this time, Julie. For those asking,
How can I be part of this?
They just, our ministry has an open door and open window policy. You just walk into the Ministry of Environment, Water and Natural Resources at NHIF building, 12th floor. You can ask for the Principal Secretary, Environment Secretary, myself, and we will see you and we'll discuss. Actually, we have, and our website, we also have Twitter, we have all the social networks on board, and we can always be contacted. We have identified actually 910 schools across the country.
To engage.
To engage.
Right.
And even as I'm on my way to Nyeri. to look at the Chania, we are taking the baseline and saying the footage, this is how it was. We want to work in 3 years, we want to say, what is the change?
Thank you. I feel inspired and I feel hopeful, and I think that's how a lot of people are feeling at home, that the impact of a program like 3GF could be totally transformational. We hope for that. I want to finish this particular segment of the show with a message from you direct to our audience. Please look into the camera and tell people, how can we each ensure, you said development is not just about, transformation is not just about government. So how do each and every one of us play a role in transforming this country and the continent?
My message is that we need to appreciate and recognize that a process like Green Growth, Global Green Growth Forum is very, very useful. But fundamentally is that environment and natural resources are the foundation for sustainable development, and that we need each of us individually to ensure that we are very resource efficient in our production and consumption systems and practices.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Stay with the Africa Leadership Dialogues.
Thank you so much for joining us on Africa Leadership Dialogues. We're having an exciting conversation about 3GF. Now let's focus on the Climate Innovation Center itself. A lot of people will be wondering, what kind of work do you do? What kind of businesses do you engage with? Please tell us.
Thank you very much, Judy. And the role of Kenya Climate Innovation Center is really to change the mindset that climate change is only a threat. But at Kenya Climate Innovation Center, we look at it as an opportunity especially for the private sector, because we strongly believe that the private sector have got a big role to play in terms of mitigating and adapting to climate change, but more importantly, availing better livelihoods for Kenyans.
Let me ask this. It's important that you point out the private sector has a role to play. For a long time, we had looked at aid as the answer to many of our problems. Was this flawed thinking? Are we now evolving?
I think the point is that the private sector actually have, to some extent, the solutions. And it's just a matter of the private sector seeing those opportunities, or seeing opportunities that they can play in as part of business. Basically what we call doing good at the same time doing business. And I think what is critical for that is also for the private sector to change the mindset and to look at such opportunities as a profitable opportunity, as opposed to looking at what is called CSR, or corporate social responsibility, which is cosmetic social responsibility, and looking at it as some sort of sustainability within their businesses, and putting that into their business models, and therefore benefiting their shareholders and other stakeholders in this journey.
It takes a complete mindset shift, in a sense. Do you think it's happening, and what's your experience with the businesses that you're dealing with?
I think it's great in the sense that we already now at Climate Innovation Center we have 85 businesses that we are supporting, and there are businesses from renewable energy, from agribusiness, and from water and sanitation, which are trying to build their business cases on the basis of climate change. Just to give an example, for instance, we have a gentleman from Kikuyu who is trying to do what is called hydroponics, and hydroponics is the art of growing crops without soil. In this case, what this guy is doing is trying to save, I think, like 75% of the water used to grow fodder for animals. And what subsequent to that have got to do is that it is increasing the yields of what the farmers are getting. So it's kind of two two-edged sword in the sense that one side it is increasing yields, and on the other side it's taking care of our limited resources, which in this case is water. So I think there's great business examples which are really showing that this is possible.
For a lot of people watching right now who are asking, wow, how can we be part of this? And for businesses that have never stopped to consider their responsibility or look at their social responsibility as part of CSR and put it in a box, how do they become part of this bigger picture under 3GF?
I think and really they need to leverage on this 3GF partnership, because really what is critical about 3GF is that we can leverage various partnerships and be able, because 3GF have got the muscle to ensure that they can open doors, and for that matter therefore make some of this partnership to be very solid and to enable people to actually do work on or actually test things on the framework of 3GF. And from my perspective, I think what the corporate world or private sector need to do is to change that mindset of saying doing good is expensive, doing good is not part of their business mandate, and really changing and saying this actually contribute to our profitability and to our shareholders' interest. And therefore with that perspective then we'll be able to see more and more companies really engaging in this. And in this country we have good examples who are playing in this field, who I think and I strongly believe they are putting very good examples which can be followed by many corporates.
So the message from you is doing good is good, and it makes good business sense as well.
That is exactly it is.
How can people contact you?
Kenya CIC, actually we have a web portal where you can apply, and you can do that through www.kenyacic.org, and there is an application platform where then you apply, and therefore we'll be able to assist you with the services that we provide to entrepreneurs.
Fantastic. Yeah. Finally, please look into the camera and deliver your message. We have a lot of African entrepreneurs trying hard to succeed, and it's tough. You've got a lot of businesses that are trying to move from micro to small to medium size. Everybody feels like it's a struggle, although we talk about Africa rising. What message do you have for them?
I think my message is very simple, in the sense that as entrepreneurs, as innovators, we just need to change the way we look at things, the way we consume things, and put natural resources in the middle of that, and try to change around that and ensure that we have proper business models that will obviously give future or protect the future of the future generations. And therefore then we'll be able to see climate change as an opportunity as opposed to as a threat.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Judy.
It's a great pleasure, Vimal, to have you on the Africa Leadership Dialogues. And we're focusing on 3GF and its impact on Kenya, first and foremost, and what examples it could have for the rest of the African continent. What are your thoughts on what we can expect to see?
I think there's a lot of progress that Kenya will show, not can show, but will show. And I think Kenya being a leader in Africa on this front, we have the UNEP headquarters in Nairobi, but overall it's just not about environment only. I think it's about the way we do business. And the Global Green Growth Forum talks about a lot of issues that we need to take on board, not because we have to, because we want to, because we wish to. And I think we could be a leading example, and we will be, so that first and foremost, like earlier said, all our resources, we need to make sure that we don't waste, right? We've been given a lot of free resources by the world, by the universe. We shouldn't be wasting them. And I think there's a lot more efficiency that's possible. And if we can just curb all that, the way we grow, it will be far better, more efficient. And I think every single person has to take responsibility.
You look at the African continent right now, 200 million people are food insecure, malnourished actually. We lose 5 million a year, we're told, to hunger. And yet we have 40% wastage when it comes to food production. So what can partnerships like these being established under 3GF do to transform these very real challenges?
I think the first and foremost understanding that this is not a county or a country challenge, it's not a continent challenge, it's a world challenge, it's a global challenge. That's firstly. Secondly, I think it's to say, what can we do collectively rather than individually? Because a lot of times I'll say, look, mind your own business, do your own stuff. And if everybody else is not complying, you'll be tempted to say, fine, why not me? And you join the bandwagon. We need to get much more focus on the snowball effect of getting more and more people onto this and saying, fine, look at it holistically. Because right now there's areas in the world of huge food surpluses, and yet we talk about Africa not having food. Okay? So there's a lot of areas within Africa which have got food surpluses. They don't know what to do with it. Either it's rotting away on farm, or it's not got access to markets, and we can actually get that off to people. So the whole distribution system, but also the production efficiencies. There's so much more we can do with water, sun, air, how to use it better, and still leave it far more better after we're gone.
An underlying theme or model here with 3GF is bringing together the critical players. So government, county governments, business, the industrialists are there, the bankers are there, so you have the finance. Is it that previously we just hadn't thought about the importance of connections, of partnerships? Is this what could truly transform our economies, is making sure we value and create strong partnerships?
I think it's so important. A lot of times it's been left to government, that it's the Ministry of Water or Environment who will worry about it. Or it was left to UNEP to worry about it. And then NGOs, they'll worry about it and talk about it. And there wasn't the holistic approach of the three-legged stool, which is private sector, NGOs and government, and all three working together to say, fine, here's a common cause. And it makes sense, common sense, but also it makes sense in terms of money for the private sector to say, fine, can I work efficiently? You save money, but at the same time you save the environment. And if all of us work together, it's not about ruthlessly applying policies and saying, go and adopt and then comply and then putting people behind bars. It's about saying, let's proactively think about it and find better solutions. The whole approach has changed from one of regulation and really controlling people to say, holistically, from within, think about it. You want to do good, but be good. So the whole issue earlier was looking good. I think we've gone away from looking good to say being good.
Let's just look at across the tracks, which include renewable energy, food production, and reforestation, I think, is one of them as well. When you look at the potential across the areas, what's most exciting for you? What do you look at and go,
I think just look at it. All of this, all of the above, it's not just about reforestation and saying, I'm planting seedlings. I think forget planting seedlings. Let's go grow trees. So for a 5-year period, 6-year period, make sure they become robust. They grow on their own later on.
Don't just plant a seedling, grow a tree.
Yes. Wow. Now, if our policies were geared towards that from government side to say, hang on, we will give you a tax incentive for growing a tree. For 5 years, if your tree is doing well, we'll get a tax incentive. That incentivizes behavior. So what we're saying is 2 types. One is by government policies, but the other one is by saying, hey, I'm inspired. I'm not instigated or motivated. I'm inspired to do good, and I'm really going to be doing the right thing. And therefore, I will harm the environment less. It's not about the other person. A lot of people will say, if they're all harming it, what's wrong with me doing it? And I think the easiest way is right now we're looking for so much hydrocarbons. Kenya is talking about oil and gas. The whole of East Africa is going to be oil and gas. And pretty soon we might run out of ideas and say, hang on, why just not work with hydrocarbons rather than work with renewable energy? So I think the geothermal energy is also now a good thing. But at the same time, what are we doing in the end? It's got to be cheaper in terms of costs. It's got to be better quality of life and better delivery. So ultimately, it makes sense for everyone.
Thank you so much, Vimal. I'm going to ask you to look into the camera and deliver a message. And I'm going to make this a wider one. A lot of people look up to you as a role model in the business world. A lot of hopelessness out there at a time when we're seeing change happening. People don't see the opportunity, though. Many people don't. What words of advice do you have for them, or encouragement? How can they seek and find the opportunity and be part of growing our countries and our continent as well?
Right now, I would say one thing very simply. Africa is the darling of the world, but we also need to embrace that as people in Africa. And I think East Africa today is the most favored country or region in Africa. We owe it to ourselves to make sure we see the opportunity. The sun, the soil, the water, the people, we've got everything. What don't we have? And we've got opportunity coming up. The demographics itself talks a lot about it. So we've really got to ramp it up and believe in ourselves first and foremost, rather than say, here we are donor dependent or other dependent. We've got to make sure we do it ourselves and really the rest of the universe will come and help us. So let's look at the opportunity in every challenge. Let's look for the positive in every negative. If we don't have paved roads, opportunity for road making machinery. So I'm just looking at it and saying every challenge is an opportunity waiting. What are we doing about it? I think we've got to get up and say, fine, let's make it happen.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Stay with the Africa Leadership Dialogues.
Fascinating stuff. If you are interested in learning more about 3GF, you can get in touch with the Kenya Climate and Innovation Center. The details are on your screen. Time now for your views on the issues.
This week we asked you, which policies in Africa can effectively boost investment in the renewable energy sector? Victor Maina says, Africa has a great source of energy. Proper planning and distribution of energy can quicken the delivery of energy in time to sources required. This will win investors' confidence in investing in Africa's energy sector.
Hi, my name is Eric Charoge, watching Africa Leadership Dialogues from Nairobi. One of the more important policies that I think we can put in place in order to boost investment in the energy sector is to put reforms that allow or mobilize investment from the private sector to go into the energy sector. This, I think, will enhance competition and will be able in the long run to bring the prices or to regulate prices of energy in Africa.
To join our conversation, go to our G+ page, Africa Leadership Dialogues, on Facebook, Africa Leadership Dialogues, on Twitter, @AfricaLD, and on WhatsApp, send your video comments to +254 715 816 033.
And now to Africa's top 10.
On Africa's Top 10 this week, we feature the sectors Africa should address for inclusive green growth. Starting us off at number 10 is Country Cases. This refers to creating a platform for cross-country learning and commonalities for enhancing green growth at country level, including political leadership, private sector entrepreneurship, and innovative financing schemes. Coming in at number 9 is procurement. The potential of green public procurement to bring about a sustainable economy is immense and presents an important incentive for greener growth. At number 8 is transport, one of the main global consumers of energy. Africa should work to support and bring to scale initiatives with growth potential aimed at improving the energy efficiency and sustainability of vehicles, roads, railways, airways, waterways, and logistics. African cities come in at number 7. Cities have an enormous climate impact, consuming over 2/3 of the continent's energy and accounting for more than 70% of global carbon dioxide emissions. The way in which cities organize their energy supply, water management, food supply, production, transport, and waste is critical to any sustainable development objectives. Taking the number 6 spot is deforestation. Land for agriculture is subject to intense competition and serious degradation due to overuse, erosion, inefficient use, and environmental changes. African governments should support initiatives that reduce emissions from deforestation and forest degradation. Slotted in at number 5 is intra-Africa trade. Trade liberalization can help improve environmental health by expanding access to environmental goods and services, lowering prices by increased competition, ensuring a more efficient use of resources, and supporting transitions towards cleaner and more service-oriented economies. At number 4 is food. Continental demand for food is estimated to double by the year 2050 and will have major environmental and social impacts. African governments should encourage a greener and more effective food chain. This will require innovative and scalable solutions. Positioned at number 3 is water, which is amongst the vital natural resources for human development and green growth. UNEP estimates that 2 out of every 3 people will live in water-stressed areas by the year 2025. To meet these challenges, water managers need to draw on innovative ideas and plans to build appropriate responses. Coming in at number 2 is finance. The goal of green development requires substantially larger investments than is seen presently in Africa. Despite increases in investment flows to a green economy, a significant gap persists. African governments should address this shortfall of investments by encouraging the unlocking of substantial private finance for green growth. And at number 1 this week is energy. The production and use of energy is a main contributor to carbon dioxide emissions. At the same time, very few people in Africa have access to modern energy supply, which is key to development and growth. African governments need to support initiatives to speed up the promotion of renewable energy, energy efficiency, and universal access to energy. And that's Africa's Top 10 this week.
Well, October 2014 sees the Danish government host the 3GF conference in Copenhagen, and they'll be discussing all these issues. Kenya will be representing Africa with its models of growth and development across the 3GF platform, and we hope this will be a success story for other African states as well. As always, we end with a quote. "No partridge scratches the ground in search of food for another." This is a Xhosa proverb. The truth of the matter is, in all our searches and our struggles, we are looking to better our lives individually, but we are all interlinked. And if we focus at the right things, sustainability, real social issues, addressing the challenges that face us, if we partner and network between private sector, government, development organizations, we can truly, together, transform our continent. Blessings to you.